Hi, hello, how are you? My name is Alex, the Bareback Contessa, and I help you fill your home with things and people that you love. Welcome or welcome back. Today, I have a very exciting topic to talk about. It's something that I've gotten a lot of questions from clients and from my audience about. Today, we're going to talk about moving in with a partner. My partner and I are moving in together come July. I'm very excited to take that step forward with him. We've been talking a lot about what we want in an apartment, where we want to live, what our price range is, and I want to share some of that advice and some of our process with you all. It's something that can be tricky to navigate, especially if it's your first time living with a partner, but really the key is communication. As long as you are talking about what you want, what you need, where you're willing to compromise, where you're not, the process is going to be easy for you and your partner. So before I get into it, here's a quick rundown of what we are looking for. If you don't know, I live in Chicago. We live in Ravenswood. Ideally, we would like to stay in that area, but we are open to really almost anywhere on the north side. Uptown, Edgewater, Andersonville, Ravenswood, Lincoln Square. Ideally, we would find a 3-bedroom, but a 2-bedroom plus a den or someplace that we can make a designated office space would be ideal. We both love to cook, so we are looking for a nice sized kitchen and an updated kitchen. I have not had a dishwasher, so that is something that I am very much looking forward to have, especially since both of us love to entertain. I love a big dinner party, but when I have to do all of the dishes afterwards, it's not fun. Going off of that, we need room for a big dining table. So ideally, we would find a place with a separate dining space, or at least a living room that is large enough to accommodate either of our dining tables, which both seat 12 people. In-unit laundry would be great. AC would be great. Some outdoor space would be great. But none of those are deal breakers. It's really going to be about all of these things together, putting together size of the size of the apartment, location, price. Ideally, we would stay at or below $2,500 a month. We're comfortable going up to $2,700, a place that checks every single one of our boxes. In the coming weeks, we're going to be looking at some apartments together. But today, I just want to talk about how we are approaching this move and how you can approach it with your partner if you're in a similar situation. So let's get into the video. So how do you even find an apartment together? I live in a 1-bedroom. He lives in an apartment with a roommate who's going to be keeping the apartment. So we knew right off the bat that we needed to find a separate space, which I think makes it easier. When you are moving into a partner's place, it can create some tension or power imbalances that can be tricky to navigate. So I think that ideally finding a separate and unique third space for both of you to move into is the easiest option. Not to say that you can't successfully move into a partner's home, but I think that ultimately it is a little easier to find a new space together. How do you do that though? Before we even looked at any places on Zillow or Redfin or anything like that, we both came up with our needs separately. To be honest, my place is very no frills. I don't have a dishwasher. I don't have central AC. Laundry's in the basement. So my list of creature comforts that I'm used to having is different than his. Whereas he lives in an apartment with central AC, with laundry in unit, with a beautiful kitchen. So we already knew we had to make some compromises there. Wants for those creature comforts are a little higher than mine just because I'm not used to having them. But that's not a problem. Being very clear on the things that you're unwilling to compromise on individually is so necessary when you start talking about places together. Ultimately, there is going to be some compromise in this search, but knowing your least common denominators is going to make that search that much easier. You'll be able to easily weed out places that don't meet your bare necessities. We look at a lot of listings together. I get a Zillow digest every morning that I share interesting places with John. He sends some to me, but we are constantly looking at new places and talking about what we like and what we don't. How does the living space look in this one? What do the bedrooms look like? Are they too small? How's the location? We are very open and honest and kind of nitpicky in this stage of our search so that we can really get a good sense of what each other likes and what we don't like as we're moving forward. Hi, kitty. We're doing a lot of our own searches, but we're also working with an apartment locator through Smart City Locating, something that I've never done before. And if you have any experience with an apartment locating service, let me know down below so I can know whether you liked it or didn't. We just talked with her last week, so we haven't had a lot of experience, but I'm looking forward to seeing what she provides. Ideally, we're looking for a smaller privately owned building as opposed to a large luxury apartment. We both love the charm of a classic Chicago apartment, much like my apartment is, but with some more updated features. Ultimately, I know that I am not a patient person. I have already seen one apartment that, for me, checked enough boxes for me to like rush into signing a lease, but I appreciate that John balances that impatience out. I know that the apartment hunt process is going to be kind of stressful, so I'm of the mind of like, let's just sign the lease now and get it over with, not have to worry about this anymore. Whereas John is more patient to wait for the perfect thing to show up. So now that you've talked about finding an apartment together and you are both on the same page, you know what to look for, you've maybe brought in a third party that can even better help you find a space that meets both of your needs. How do you merge items? Both of us have apartments that we have furnished. We have pieces that we love. We have things that might overlap, especially in the kitchen. Both of us love to cook, and we both have fully stocked kitchens. But how do you decide whose frying pan you're taking and whose sofa is coming? That is also something that we're talking about a lot. You know, we know that my sofa is going to be coming with us because it's frankly a lot nicer. And I got a great deal on an Our House sofa on Facebook Marketplace. Versus we know John's dining table is probably coming with us because it's something that he wants to pass down to his kids. So that's something that will be moving with us. My coffee table, which was my grandmother's, is the one piece in my apartment that I'm really attached to. But having those conversations around whose kitchen stuff is nicer, whose accent chairs do we like better, what kind of furniture do we even need in the new space? Are there things that aren't going to fit, or are we going to have to add pieces in? Having those communication is just as important as talking about what you want your apartment to look like and where you want it to be. Now, you don't have to be as type A as me, but I created a spreadsheet for us to write down, especially the kitchen items that both of us have, so we can decide who is going to keep what. We don't need to move 2 kitchens worth of pots and pans and plates and cups. I have some nicer things, he has some nicer things. This spreadsheet will not only help me track the things that I have and force me to like really be diligent as I'm going through and purging, we'll not only be able to easily see who has what and who is moving what, but if there are any holes in what we are bringing and what we might need to purchase for the new space. You know, we already know that we're going to upgrade our coffee maker because both of us have a pretty standard drip coffee maker. We'd like to get something a little nicer since both of us drink coffee first thing in the morning. Things like that. But also we have 2 KitchenAid mixers. So whose is newer? Whose is nicer? Is there a friend that we can like loan the other one to? Those are all the things that this communication and this spreadsheet will help us figure out. You know, while I have put a lot of time and effort into decorating my apartment, I'm not particularly attached to any of the pieces in it, to be honest. There are mostly things that I have thrifted or found secondhand or found in the alley. And while I love the way that it has come together, I have no problems getting rid of things that don't fit or that we don't want to bring into the new space. We've talked about finding an apartment. We've talked about what we're keeping. How do you decorate an apartment? Again, communication is key. Making sure that you are both on the same page for decorating is incredibly important. I would suggest setting up a shared mood board on Pinterest or Instagram or wherever you want to gather inspiration. Create something that both of you can add to. Talk about everything. Show each other like an inspiration image that you like and ask what they think about it. And not just on a surface level, like what do they think about the color of the sofa? What did they think about the shade of paint on the walls? What did they think about the window coverings? All of those like really kind of nitpicky and granular things are important to discuss when you're moving in together and decorating an apartment together. I suggest focusing on adjectives and how you want your space to make you feel rather than finding a really solid design style like mid-century, like glam, like farmhouse to describe your home. Using adjectives is especially helpful if you are 2 people that have very different design styles and aesthetics. Being able to come up with 3 to 5 adjectives to describe how both of you want your home to feel is so much more helpful than trying to nail down a design style. That it can pigeonhole you into one very specific aesthetic, and your place can start to feel like a catalog rather than a really collected and interesting and layered home. If you're not sure where to start, I have a design adjectives worksheet that you can download down in the description below. This list has over 100 different adjectives that you can pick and choose based on the mood or the vibe that you are looking for to help describe how you want your home to make you feel. Ultimately, John and I have pretty compatible design styles. We both like clean lines and mid-century pieces. I tend to go a little bit more colorful and maximal than John is, but he has a very clear perspective that I love and appreciate. Now, John has given me full creative control, which on one hand is exciting, but at the same time, I want him to play a role in our space. I want his opinion. I want him to make some decisions. If you're in a similar situation with a partner who has handed you the reins, here's how I suggest you bring them into some of the decision making. If you're trying to choose on a rug or a paint color or a piece of furniture, present them two options that you have kind of narrowed things down from. Think of when you go to the eye doctor and they ask you, okay, which one's clearer, A or B? And then they go to the next one. Okay, which one's clearer, A or B? Take that same thought process into choosing your rug. Okay, which rug do you like, A or B? They choose B. All right, which one do you like, B or C? And by that, you're kind of forcing them into having an opinion, and you can also better learn about what they actually like. If you just ask them an open-ended question like, okay, what kind of rug should we get for our living room? You're not really going to get a clear answer because they don't know. But when you kind of can guide them in a direction and present them a more narrow choice to make, you can start to pull some of those thoughts and opinions out of them and train them to have a design aesthetic and a design opinion. Do the same thing with inspiration images. Find a picture of a living room that you love and ask them specific questions about it. How do you feel about the color on the walls? How do you feel about this sofa? Does this room look like cozy and inviting to you? Or does it feel cold and sterile? Is it the kind of living room that you could see yourself spending time in? Why or why not? Now that might feel like overly scientific, but if you're with somebody who doesn't have an opinion and you want them to feel involved, trying to guide their thought process in the direction, narrow down what can feel really overwhelming for somebody who doesn't know or particularly care about design, providing them with a narrow selection and a narrow idea of things to look at will help to train their design aesthetic and help you learn a lot about what they like and what they don't. So I hope you've noticed some themes across those three topics about moving in with a partner. Communication is key. When in doubt, over communicate. Talk and share everything. Show each other apartments you like or inspiration images or potential purchases you want to make. And if you really feel stuck, consider working with a designer. Bring them in for a couple of consultations just to get your vision really clear. In fact, you can sign up for a free discovery session with me down below if you'd like to talk through some of these things further. All right, if you learned anything from today's video, be sure to give it a thumbs up so that it gets shown to more cool people like you. To see more of my lovely face, be sure to subscribe. I upload videos every Sunday and vlogs every other Thursday. Thanks for joining me. Talk to you next time. Bye.